Well, ladies, thank you so much for being here today. For those of you listening and watching, I've got a lot of faith sitting at this table, a lot of women who their faith has been tried and tested and true. It is proven true through all of this. And that's because you guys have a commonality that not many women have and no one wants, and that's loss through motherhood. So I'm just honored to be able to talk to you guys today as you encourage so many through your testimonies of faith and what he's done in your life. So I'd love to just start today by just having you share a little bit about yourself, a little snippet of your journey in motherhood, where you've been, maybe some of the loss that you've experienced and where you are now, if you don't mind.
I'll kick it off, I guess.
Yeah.
So my name is Stacy. I have 2 living children, Connor and Caitlin, and then I have Isabella, and she would have been 9 this year. But my water broke when I was 20 weeks pregnant, and so they tried to keep me pregnant. The goal was 36 weeks, but I ended up having to have her with an emergency C-section at 25 weeks. So she was 15 weeks early. She was 1 pound, 12 ounces when she was born. And we had her for 19 days before we ended up losing her. And so now Connor and Caitlin are 16 and 14, and getting big.
Yeah. Thanks.
I'm Jessica, and I have 4 living children. My oldest is 11, and then I have a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old. But in 2016, we had 2 girls, and wanted to try for a boy, got pregnant right away, and at 17 weeks, we decided to kind of on a whim try and find out if we were having a boy or a girl, to announce it to our families at Christmas, and went in, and there was no heartbeat. And so we delivered our first boy. We named him Daniel. He was born in around Christmas of 2016. Never found out what happened. They just said his heart just stopped, and we don't know why. But since then, the Lord has been gracious enough to give us 2 more boys. Just such a blessing to have them. So,
Yeah.
they're a gift.
I'm Jackie, and I have 1 living child, and he's actually a man now. He's 24. His name is Jansen. And I had a daughter who was born about 2 years before him, and her name was Jana. And she was diagnosed with cancer when she was a freshman in high school. And up until that time, we had a pretty healthy, normal family lifestyle, and the kids were doing well. And then she was diagnosed with cancer when she was 15, and she fought that cancer for 6 years and passed away in August of 2020.
Yeah, it's been, sweet is not the right word, but I can't think of another word right now. But just to know you personally, you ladies personally, and to see how you've walked out your faith and stayed so faithful to him in this, because I cannot imagine what you ladies have walked through. And so I want to dive into just some practical questions, but feel free to take the conversation wherever you want to take it. So first, having known your stories, what does motherhood look like on this side of loss? What's that look like for each of you now? Or has it changed?
Certainly has changed for me. I would say I think once you go through something like this, I think your perspective on life changes. Yeah. You start to realize how precious life really is and how quickly it can come and go. And that verse, this is just a mist. Our life, it comes and goes so quickly. And I think that becomes more realistic and tangible when you go through that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does. Yeah. I am now a grandmother, which has been just a huge blessing and joy in my life. And my son has had his first daughter, he and his wife, Paige. And when he was going through the grief of losing his sister, we were working through this as a family, and I was having to mother in a very different way with him than I had with my daughter. And just the joys now of seeing him now becoming a father to his sweet little girl has been so heartwarming. And I see how God is working. God has worked very differently in each of my children, and it has really shown me the uniqueness of each of them, and just the blessing that they each are, and the blessing that Jana still continues to be in both my life and his life. And I pray for the life of my granddaughter as well.
So sweet.
It was funny when the second I lost her, I became very date driven to where everything, if I hear a year or a date, I still do it now. I instantly go, if that was before I had Isabella, if that was during my hospital stay and when she was in the hospital, or if it was after I lost her. And you can just give a date and I will instantly go there. And so like, that doesn't impact motherhood, but that's just one of those quirky little things that I still deal with to this day. But as far as like motherhood, it was super hard at first, because at the time Connor was 8 and Caitlin was 5. And so I was still like in the trenches of being a mom and them being dependent on me. And at first it was one of those things that I didn't feel like I could cry in front of them. And so like I would go and hide in my closet and like just cry out to God. And then I felt like I had to pick up myself and then go be a mom, you know? But I remember it was one time when I was crying in the kitchen with my mom, and Caitlin came up and was just rubbing my back. And it was just one of those moments where I'm like, this is where I can teach my children that tears are not a weakness, that grieving, you can grieve in a healthy way. And it really allowed me to step in to teach them about Jesus and that this is not the end, that we will see her again. And so it really gave me an opportunity to lean in, to really just kind of dive into what Jesus did for us.
That's great. Yeah. Well, speaking of even just how you're teaching your kids, or had that moment where you got to teach your daughter a little bit about God's character in this, how have you, throughout your process of grief, seen God's character, maybe in a way that you didn't see before, or maybe in a way that I've not experienced because I haven't experienced loss in the way that you have?
I mean, I experienced his grace. I experienced his grace in the floor of my closet. It literally was me angry at him, confused, and just crying out with the same questions of why over and over and over again. And I just remember he led me to Psalm 34:18, and where it just talks about that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and he rescues those who are crushed in spirit. And I just remember praying, will you rescue me now? And it was almost like he physically lifted me up off that closet floor. And I never went back to the closet after that. I'm not saying that I did not experience overwhelming sadness, but it was one of those moments that I will never forget, of the rescue began in that moment. And he gave me the privilege of just seeing his hand at work, and gave me a purpose behind that, and just even a purpose to her life, which helped heal my heart so much.
Absolutely.
That's one of my favorite verses as well that I clung to so much. Like when you read that he's close to the brokenhearted, like, oh, he's there. He gets it. He's here. I am so brokenhearted. I am so sad, but he's here. And right after we found out, we went into a little waiting room and the lights were off, and the doctor had to, finish seeing other patients. And so she let us kind of have our own grieving room. And I remember sitting there, and on the blinds, there was a part of it that was broken, and it was still early in the morning, and the light was shining in. I remember in that moment God saying to me, it is dark, but I am here. And it happened again in delivery, that dark room, that bright light. and over, the Lord kept showing up like that even in this dark valley, I am still here, and it's going to be hard, but I will not leave you. And so I feel like we have seen that over and over, where he just comforts. And we entitled that season of our life Our Joyful Nightmare, because it was horrible. It was just this awful nightmare. But there was undescribable joy that can only come from the Lord. That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But you have this joy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so seeing just this awful thing, but how God is so good.
Wow.
He is.
It was
Wow.
great.
He is.
And awful.
Yeah.
All the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we were leaving the hospital, when we had just said goodbye to Jana and driving home separately because we were taking turns. And so as I'm driving home without my daughter for the first time, knowing I had to leave her there, I was pulling up to my home and I had her phone in one of my bags in the back seat. And we had Life 360 on all our phones at the time. As I'm pulling into my driveway, I hear the phone speak and say, Jana is now home.
Oh, wow.
And as that voice spoke to me, I thought, there are no truer words
Wow.
than
Yes.
hearing that. And we were constantly, or I was constantly seeking for God's specific encouragement to me, grace to me. I was looking for it all the time. And so that first experience where I heard that, and it was almost like a reminder, almost like words from God, that she is home and she is with me. And I can't tell you how many other times where I've been looking for something specific just to know that God's hand is still on us. And he continues to do that even to this day, almost 5 years later after that time. So I would keep seeking. That's been my lifeline through all this, just looking for God in every situation.
Oh, he's so good.
Yeah,
He
and I
is
think
good.
just even you saying that you're looking for him in that, and sometimes it's like you said, in a broken blind in a hospital room. Like who would think, oh, that's God? But for you in that moment, that's how he comforted you, is to know that I'm the light in this dark room, and for you, Jana's home with me. Like those are little God winks from him to let you know. I think.
Yes, I think so.
Kind of turning the corner a little bit, for many of us who have not walked this particular road of grief, when a loved one or a friend has walked through this type of loss, oftentimes we find ourselves maybe afraid or don't know how to show up because we think we're going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, or other various reasons, other excuses we don't show up, or we show up in the wrong way. How would you encourage those like me who want to be there for our loved ones and our friends, but just don't know where to start? How did you experience that in your life, where people showed up for you? What was helpful? What was not? It's okay to share that too, just to encourage us.
I would say make things as personal as you can. A lot of my most meaningful, helpful times were when people would do something specific in honor of Jana. One of my closest friends, she was almost like a second mom to Jana, and she loved poetry and writing, and Jana loved that as well. And when Jana passed away, my friend wrote a poem and just left it on a voicemail for me, something very specific to what Jana loved and what was important to us. That was so special to me. One other thing, my daughter-in-law had this print made for me, and it was made out of the lyrics of a song that Jana wrote. And when you stand back from the print, it's Jana's picture.
Oh, cool.
And as you look closely, it's the lyrics
Yeah.
of one of her songs that she wrote.
Wow.
So I would just say look for really specific to that person, something they love, something that means a lot.
Sweet. Something you can keep
Mhm.
too, to
Sweet.
remind you of Jana.
Mhm.
Sweet.
I love that. That's so sweet. I had we had some good friends that my husband called in the midst of moving from the doctors to the hospital, and it was so sweet because they had young children at the time, but they came to the hospital, but they took turns, and they lived like 30 minutes away from the hospital, but all night long they would just take turns going back and forth, and I can hardly remember any of the words she said, but she didn't say a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I remember her coming in and just plopping down in the bed with me and just laying there. And I remember her saying to me, "You can do this." And I said, "No, I can't." And she said, "Well, you don't have a choice." And I remember like that in that moment, I needed that courage from her. It was just very encouraging in that moment, but she really didn't say much more outside of that. She was just there.
Yeah.
So just showing up and sometimes just listening and just sitting in the silence is okay too. I think so often we try to fix things, especially in the Christian world. We want to fix things for someone, but sometimes we just need to sit in our grief.
Yeah.
My husband is great at this. We get asked the question all the time, "How are you?" And I'm not okay. Think about what I just went through. And that question of "How are you?" is usually going to be followed by "I'm really bad." So he has kind of shifted to asking, "What do you need right now?" And sometimes I need my baby and I can't have that. So he knows you just need some grieving time. And I'm just going to let you have that.
Yeah.
So sometimes just being in the silence and asking what you need. I mean, either one.
I love that too, even the practicality of like, we need someone to take our kids right now.
Yes.
Like my husband and I are walking through this right now at the
Yeah.
hospital, and we have 2 other kids at home.
Yeah.
And we need food, and we need to know they're cared for, and we need a clean house. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's acts of service that it's like, I don't know what to say because I can't fix it and I want to fix it.
Yep.
So I can do this. I
Yep.
can take your kid from you, and I can clean your home.
Yeah. We
So
had
sometimes
people
just showing up.
do that too. Like they would pick up our Walmart groceries and drop them off. And, little things like that are very helpful. But if you have a friend that's gone through this, a close friend,
Yeah.
I think being there in those moments are really sweet.
Yeah, and I think you can let fear keep you away from leaning into
Yeah.
someone's grief because you feel like you do have to have the perfect words. And that's kind of what came to my mind when you asked that was show up. And that's just, I didn't need anybody talking to me because there's nothing that you're going to say that's going to take away that pain and that hurt. But just that presence. And that's one of those things is God will put people in your path at just the right time. And it's also one of those moments of being willing to show up months later. I went through, it was like months and months of either nightmares about the night that she passed away. Like I had this reoccurring dream that just happened over and over and over. And then, or even just driving into work and like a random commercial on the radio would send me into like hysterics to where I'm texting my boss of, I can't get out of my car right now. And I had a wonderful coworker that she would always come and she would just let me cry on her shoulder, and she was just there. And it was just moments of that allowed me just to get strength to be able to move forward. And not feel like I'm stuck in my grief. And so like what you said, just show up. Like you don't have to have the words. You just need to be a presence in someone's life.
Yeah. And even like you said, like months and months after, when others may not have forgotten what you've gone through, but they're not thinking about it every moment of every day because you're living it, and so just being reminded, maybe that's putting something on your calendar, like make sure to text so-and-so today because that's a 3-month anniversary or things like that. That means so much just to know that you remember and the Lord's put you on my mind to text you and to call you today. So that's good.
I have a friend that does that. She puts it in her calendar. but she has Daniel's birthday on the calendar, but she also has the day before, because the day before is when we found out.
Oh, wow.
And so he wasn't born until the next day. And she always brings me like a treat or something, just
beautiful.
to be, kind. A lot of family and friends remember his birthday, but the day
Wow.
before, she's the one that always shows up with, usually it's macaroons or a scoop of ice cream or something, just to be a
That's
sweet
so
friend. And it
sweet.
means so much.
Yeah.
It's something little that she does, but it's huge
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I love that. Yeah, it's like take the pressure off yourself to know
Yeah.
that nobody can fix it. Nothing they're going to say is going to make it better, but to just being a presence and being there for someone and bringing them words of truth through scripture and prayer and just sometimes just silence and being a physical presence on the couch is all you need. So, yeah.
I think, too, as time goes by, when people tend to stop talking about your child as much, I think the importance of people saying their name,
Yes.
not just, the empty seat is always at our tables. We never forget. But for those people, not to think that they're going to make us sad because they say our child's name. We're already sad because of that. So by hearing them continue to talk about them and say their specific name really does make a big impact.
Yeah, for sure. What would you say to the mom who is about to enter into her first Mother's Day after loss?
I would say it's going to be hard. Like there's no way around it. It's going to be hard. But lean in. Just lean into the Lord and let his peace and his comfort be what holds you that day. And my prayer for that person would be that he would lead someone in their path that would be able to just give them a joy. But it's going to be hard, and that's okay. Like, it's not supposed to be easy in those moments, but just lean into Jesus and let him provide that comfort that you're going to need, because it's the peace that he provides is what's going to carry you through it.
Yes.
So good. I agree. It will be hard, and there's no way to put a bow on that. It's going to be hard. And I think to give yourself the freedom to do what you need to do. If you need to just have quiet time with the Lord on your own, away from people, that is okay. And even if getting together with family and the distant cousin is pregnant or somebody there, like if you need to take time to go into another room, that's okay. That is all right. But I agree, leaning into the Lord, because he's there in the darkness and in that pain.
Yes.
He's there. He shows up. He always does.
He's there.
Always does. Yeah.
And he knows
He does.
what it feels to lose
Yes.
a child.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And to see your child suffer, there's encouragement in knowing that he does know that. And Mother's Day is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
It's a day of deep sorrow for us, but yet I totally agree with everything you both just said. If you seek God, he will give you what you need. His grace is sufficient. Everything he promises us is so true, and he's there with us in the darkest times in our grief.
I read something once that had this quote. I hope I get it right, but I think it was, joy is not the presence of happiness. Oh, can we take that out? Can you edit that? Can I look at this? It's so good. I'm so sorry. Hold on. Joy is not the absence of trouble, but the presence of hope. And I think like that's just proof the Lord is there. And even in the trouble and the pain, you can still have joy. He's there. It's hard.
Yeah. Because it's different than happiness.
Yes, it is different.
Yeah. It's a different kind of internal life that you have as your joy from the Lord.
And I had a friend, it was like a week after we lost Isabella, I had a friend text me, and she said, every day that you're here on the earth is one day closer to seeing Isabella again.
Wow.
And I love that because it flipped the script, because I think I was naturally tending, it's like at that moment, it's been a week since I lost her. And I was putting that separation of every day on my earth, or every day that I'm on the earth is one day further away from her. And so it like gave that, and like I still cling to that to this day, of every single day that I'm on this earth is one more day closer to her. And it's just, yeah, I love that. And like that's one of those things that it was a simple statement that I was like, I like have really just clung to in my life, and just gives me that hope.
Yeah. Well, last question, and I know some of these answers, but for our listeners and watchers, how do you honor your child's legacy today?
From the day of her diagnosis, I felt like I wanted to take every opportunity that God was going to give me to point back to him. And I felt that if he was going to have me walk through cancer with her, and not knowing at the time how long or if she would beat it, I just felt a very strong leaning towards, if I have to walk this, it's not going to be in vain. If we're going to go through this suffering, we are going to make the most of what we want, every opportunity to point back to Jesus, what he has done for us. And that has continued all these years later, even with the opportunity to talk today. If God lays something in my lap where I can give the glory back to him, I'm going to do it. And that makes the life of Jana even more powerful, and even more, it continues to give and to give. And I'm thankful that God gives me those opportunities that I never would have had without that loss. And I know Jana would have loved to know that people were growing closer to Jesus. She would have given her life for that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like that's part of her legacy, even through me, just to continue to point everything back to the one who gives us life in the first place.
Yeah.
You do that so well.
Thank you.
Oh, good. Yeah, the day of Isabella's funeral, I remember coming to 2 Corinthians 1:4, I think it is, where it just talks about how God comforts us so that we can comfort others who experience the same pain. And he laid it on my heart to have a ministry. I remember the chaplain came and visited me, and I told him, and he was like, "Why don't you take some time?" But so I developed a ministry called Faith Through Isabella Faith, and it was kind of a twofold, because we were in the NICU, and the NICU is hard. And so there was a NICU ministry side of it that I did blankets, and had a little verse I would put on the blankets and just kind of walk with moms with that. But the part of the ministry that is what healed my heart was when I got to walk with moms who lost their babies, because like you said earlier, it's a badge that not very many of us have. Nobody wants it. But I just remember when I was in the NICU, I wanted to hear those success stories. I just wanted all of that. The second I lost her, I did not want to hear from the NICU families who had babies that were thriving. And so I wanted somebody that has experienced the pain that I had and was saying, it's going to be okay. So it was one of those moments those are the moments that I hold dear to my heart. Jessica was actually the first mom that I ever sat down with to meet. I remember walking into the restaurant that we were at thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not ready, because it was just 2 months after I'd lost Isabella. And I was just like, God, give me the strength I'm going to need. But it was such a sweet lunch.
It was.
And it really it kind of really just was like, you can do this. And so like, that's the part that I kind of hold. And again, it's just giving God the glory and pointing moms to don't walk away. Don't let your grief overcome you to where you miss what Jesus is doing in these moments, because he is still there in the hard times, he's still at work. And that's what has healed my heart, is just seeing his hand at work through it.
Yeah.
And Stacey, I don't think I knew that I was the first person that you had met with. I would have never known that. But I think you gave me so much courage in that moment too. And I think because we were both still pretty raw and pretty fresh, like you were able to speak a lot of courage into me in that moment. And I was so comforted that I was not the only one who had gone through this. I just didn't feel alone. And you were safe to me. You're just a safe person in that moment. And then our paths crossed again, and you gave a blanket to my now 7-year-old who I was pregnant with at the time. So I appreciate that. And you just being obedient to the Lord. And as far as Daniel, I with a friend, I started a support group here at church for pregnancy, miscarriage, and infant loss, and any kind of loss like infants and below. And it is so hard, but we've found a sweet community where none of us would have met or intersected together, but it's been just really sweet to be with people who understand that loss. Even though every story is so different, there's a lot of overlap in the emotion. And what's been cool talking about this legacy, I love this question because there's so many unique ways that you can honor your children, and people are so creative. And I don't think it has to be a huge thing, but if the Lord opens a door to start a ministry, run with it. But we have a couple gals who will go to a bakery on their baby's birthday or the day they had a miscarriage, and they will tell the baker, I want to pay for somebody's birthday cake today. Aww. And they'll write a little note and say, this is in honor of, whatever their baby's name is. Wow. And I just love that. And Daniel was born around Christmas, so we always get an angel tree that would be the same age that he is. So there's just so many options that you can run with. Yeah. But I think, Jackie, like you said, taking everything back to giving God the glory. This is awful, and I don't understand why, but I understand that He's going to use it, and I have faith that He will.
Yeah. Well, thank you, ladies, for sharing your stories and encouraging everyone that's listening, and just honored to be able to be in the room today with you ladies and just hear how the Lord is using you, how He's using your stories, and how He's going to continue to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Honor.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Mother's Day.